Welcome to the Chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 20 of Chalk Talk, brought to you by the Painted Lines. I'm your host, Shane Half. You can follow me on Twitter at @halfandhalf_TPL. I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You've seen him on the Tough Cover Pod. It's Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at @MarkHenryJr_. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm happy that we could fit this in on Friday afternoon, so people have some time to get this before the Eagles game on Sunday, before the rest of the NFL games on Sunday. This week has been like the most I've focused so far on the NFL draft. This has been probably like the earliest I've dove this deep into the NFL draft, and like I'm already there mentally with the Eagles. So I'm sure we'll kind of discuss that, but that's where my brain has been at sports-wise this week.
Yeah, for sure. I posted a poll earlier, I think it was Monday, asking people, where are you at for this game? Like, do you want the Eagles to win? Because, like, losing doesn't only make your pick better, but it's going to make the Lions pick worse, which bumps up your pick. And there's, with the Dolphins and all those things. And I think it was like 74% of the people said that they were polling for a loss for draft capital, which is just a strange place to already have to be this early in the year. But before we get into all that, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. So drop a comment. We'll throw it up on the screen. We'd love to interact with you guys during the show. It also uploads to Apple Podcasts later. So please follow, rate, and review us there. Mark, before we really get into the Eagles thing, I learned something very surprising today. I don't know if you've been on Twitter much today, but I learned that there are people in the world that actually think Howie Roseman is good at his job. That blew my mind. I really didn't expect that. This is the guy who has given the Eagles the most dead cap for next year in the NFL right now. Eagles are number one in dead cap for next year. We've only got $27 million in cap space with 19 pending free agents. And it all started with a tweet I put out about how, we still owe Joe Flacco $2.4 million next year. And everybody was like, I would pay that for a 6th round pick anytime. It's like, that's not the point. The point is he costs that for you next year, whether you traded him or not, because we put 4 dummy years on a 1-year backup quarterback's contract in a season where we weren't expecting to compete anyways. Like, it just baffles me that there's anyone out there that still defends this guy. I mean, he's made 15 day 1 and day 2 picks since 2016, 1 Pro Bowler, and it's the guy he ran out of town last year. Just mind-blowing to me that those people exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative. The first thing I want to say is I would not pay $2.4 million for a 6th round pick. That's really stupid.
The Buccaneers 6th round pick, by the way, it's not even the Jets 6th rounder. It's the Buccaneers 6th rounder.
Yeah, no matter what the 6th rounder is, I wouldn't give up $2.4 million because you still do have to pay that player once they make it's not like you get to pay that player $0 once you draft them. So whatever. That's just like a semantics issue. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's the worst GM in football. I don't even think you would say that.
Joe Douglas does still exist. So yeah.
And I'm not going to say that he's like the worst at his job or, he has no redeeming qualities. He did a great job in 2017, but the last 4 years are inexcusable. And if you're still defending him based on any moves in the last 4 years, it's kind of hard to take that seriously.
Yeah. Anyways, maybe I just launched my final thought out there first.
No.
But anyways, let's get into the Eagles traveling to Detroit to play the Lions. I don't know if you saw Miles Sanders is now on IR, so he's going to miss at least 3 weeks. Expected to be back shortly after that, though, so probably a 3-week thing for him. Zach McPherson is out for this game, which doesn't really make an impact on the defense, but he is a core special teamer. And then Anthony Harris is doubtful. And I looked for the Lions injury report, and I didn't see it up yet. But so that'd be a big loss for the Eagles. Not that Anthony Harris has been great, but again, it just puts more of a strain on this safety room that it seems like has been under fire in terms of injuries all year.
Yeah, it's been a war of attrition at that spot for the Eagles for sure. And I'm not sure what Harris, I'm not sure how good Harris has been, or if it's been the scheme, or where his PFF grades would even be over the first couple of weeks, or if you want to check that. But I do know that I've seen people tweeting out hoping to draft Kyle Hamilton, and the person that they're saying Kyle Hamilton and Anthony Harris on both sides and the safeties would be pretty awesome. So I imagine Anthony Harris has been pretty good. So if he is going to be missing, having to play Epps that many more snaps, having to have Epps and McLeod out there probably, I don't know, the whole time, it's definitely going to be a negative for the defense, which I don't think we need to add negatives to this defense with how this defense has been playing as of late.
So far, Anthony Harris's PFF grade for the year is a 53.1.
Oof. That's rough.
And it looks like Marcus Epps, who would play in his place, his is a 66.6. So his is better. Get that nice 666 vibe in there.
I've been impressed with Epps at times. More impressed than I expected, I guess, coming into the year.
Yeah, so perhaps not a negative if
maybe
Epps has to play instead of Harris. Who knows? You can't even see the safeties on the field anyways. The camera doesn't zoom out that far. But so let's get into it. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball here. The Lions defense is they're bad against the pass. They drafted Jeffrey Okudah. I think it was 4 overall a year ago. Had a very poor rookie year and then went down. I believe it was in the opener of this year. So he's out. They're missing other cornerbacks. They are the worst team in the NFL in QB rating allowed and in yards per attempt. They give up a ton of explosive plays. And so, the Eagles have really struggled with explosive plays, but this is a game where maybe you can see, Quez Watkins running behind the defense. I think you can expect to see the Eagles take some shots in this game downfield.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And more than anything in this game, you just want to see them be aggressive, and you just want to see them let Jalen Hurts do some things that could excite us potentially. I mean, this game's about Jalen Hurts. This game's about Nick Sirianni. This game is about just not looking like the same vanilla offense that does the same type of screens with no motion. And they need to do something to get the ball into Quez's hands in the open field. They need to do something to involve Dallas Goedert. They need to do something to force Jalen Hurts to throw to the middle of the field. I know there's a lot of discussion, and this is just everything this Eagles season has turned into Sirianni versus Hurts and blame pie and whatever you want to say. And I hate to add to that, but there's obviously the whole conversation of is Hurts not throwing to the middle of the field because he doesn't want to and because he can't, because he's nervous he's going to throw a pick, or is that Sirianni scheming him to throw to the sidelines? And it's who knows, obviously. Maybe we'll find out once one of them is gone, or who knows. But that's obviously going to be a huge factor in this game. And even more than going down the field, I'd like to see Dallas Goedert just absolutely peppered with targets in the middle of this field. There's no one on this team that's athletically, linebacker, safety-wise on the Lions that should be able to stick with Goedert.
Agreed. And, for all that talk of passing downfield, I still want to see the run game here. Jalen Hurts has not proven he's capable of handling this big of a load yet. And so the Eagles are going to have to run the ball. And they started out like that last week. They got under center. They let the offense attack, and it was working. And then Miles Sanders goes down. It looks like Jordan Howard is slated to suit up on Sunday. And so You wonder about Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell. Maybe they're just change of pace backs. I do not want to see Jordan Howard getting 12 to 15 carries this game, though. Give those to Boston Scott. Really give them to Kenny Gainwell, see what he can do. I mean, at the end of the day, this is about figuring out what we have. And Jordan Howard's not a piece that's going to be here long term. But I expect to see him involved in the game. But I would like to see them under center and run a little bit more, get some of that boot action, some of that read option sort of stuff. And not just throw the ball 40, 50 times this game.
For sure. I hope that it's Gainwell. I don't think Jordan Howard's going to get more than 5 touches. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being naive, but I really think it'll be Gainwell. And they've shown that they like to use Gainwell in the passing game, at least. So I don't think it'll be as drastic of a change to involve him in some of the packages that would have been Miles Sanders packages. So I think that we'll see a lot of Gainwell. So fantasy owners out there, start Kenny Gainwell. But I think that, yeah, I mean, going back to what I said about Dallas Goedert, it kind of fits with Kenny Gainwell too, hopefully. But Mike Kay, I had on another podcast, and he said that this season we've all talked about whether this is the Jalen Hurts season, if he's the most important piece, whether it's Nick Sirianni's season. It might be Dallas Goedert's more than anybody to see if he is, that upper echelon. Right now, I think he's probably in that TJ Hawkinson, Logan Thomas, maybe even Mark Andrews area of tight ends. In an expanded role, can he take a step above that? And can he be in that top 5, 6 tight ends in the NFL? And will he be paid like that? Because I think both those guys I just mentioned, Hawkinson and Thomas, were paid recently. Will he get in line with those contracts, less than, more than? That's going to be an interesting thing to see. And to your point about Jordan Howard should not be on the team this year. He shouldn't have been on the team last year, so he definitely shouldn't be a part of the future. So I agree wholeheartedly. And Kenny Gainwell, I don't think this is a team that's going to pay Miles Sanders. I think now when you add this, clearly there's an injury issue to be concerned about. So I don't think that this is going to be a long-term answer at running back for the Eagles. I don't think Miles Sanders is the running back in 2 years. So Kenny Gainwell could absolutely be that guy. Now we need to see that he can handle that and that he's not just a change of pace guy. And I think this is a really good opportunity to see if that's the case.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, that the Eagles are not a team that historically invests a lot into running back. We know they're an analytics-driven team, and analytics tell you not to pay running backs that second contract. And so Miles Sanders, he's under contract next year, but after that, I really don't see the Eagles paying him unless it's a below market deal, and maybe they can get him for that. And maybe you can feel good about that because his usage has been relatively low through 2.5 years, and even dating back to college where he backed up Saquon. And so there should be a lot of tread left on the tires, but definitely something to look at there. And the Goedert, to your point about Goedert, that contract situation is going to be fascinating to follow. I really don't know what the Eagles are going to do there. I don't think you can feel good about giving him some huge deal right now because he's just never been asked to be the guy and shown that he can do that. And I think he can, but you hate to pay him in that upper echelon just off of a projection after 3 years of his career.
Well, I think Howie's really into giving money off of projections right now. If you look at Josh Sweat and you look at Jordan Mailata, I'm not even necessarily complaining about either of those contracts yet. I'm just saying it felt like we did them before we had to, just in case they broke out and just in case they outperformed that to avoid giving them even more money. I don't know if that would be the case for either of those guys. I mean, maybe you can say that I'm wrong there. Definitely not Mailata. I don't think Mailata's outperformed his deal. I know he's been moved around. You can argue not whether that's, our fault that he hasn't been as good as we hoped. But when you look at Josh Sweat, and I've been excited about some games from Josh Sweat, but he hasn't been like, oh, thank God we paid him before we had to. I don't know.
Yeah, and Mailata will be interesting to follow this week. He was kind of a turnstile last week. Hopefully you see him settle in against a much lesser pass rush and for the second week in a row playing the same position. So hopefully he can stay at left tackle. Hopefully Lane stays healthy and we see him bounce back in a big way.
So real quick on Goedert, because I was just curious. So I looked up the top paid tight ends in the NFL, and Mark Andrews this year signed a 4-year, $56 million deal. So then you go down to the next one, which is Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith both signed with the Patriots for $12.5 million, but I think Henry's was longer. It is Henry got, taking a minute. I'm struggling here, but it looks like Henry. It was a 1-year deal. Okay, so that's different. But 4 years, $56 million feels like a lot to me. I don't think that Goedert will be getting 4 years, $56 million. He hasn't been as productive as Mark Andrews. So let's scroll down to Logan Thomas. When I remember, I even sent this to you. I think when they signed this deal in the offseason, Washington, that this seemed like kind of similar to what I expected a Dallas Goedert contract to look like. And this was 3 years, $24 million. I could see it maybe being a 4-year deal. Maybe it's even 4 years, $40 million. This is $8 million per. Maybe Goddard gets around $10 million. I don't know if that's just my guess, ballparking it. I don't know where you'd be at.
Yeah,
I
would be happy with a deal that's kind of in that range. I don't know if Goddard will, especially since he's already been on record saying that he thinks he's a top 3 or 4 tight end in the league. So
was that pre or post Kyle Pitts?
that was pre. Kyle Pitts. But
Well, he
let's
better
flip it over to
update his rankings.
Yeah, he might need to. Let's flip it over to the defense here. The defense was just atrocious last week. Nobody disputes that. They face Jared Goff this year, who is completing his completed air yards is 3.7 yards per completion, by far the lowest in the NFL. His top two pass catchers are his running back and his tight end, and their highest yard per reception guy ran a 4.73 40 at the combine. If Jonathan Gannon comes out with two safeties 30 yards off the ball and plays soft coverage, they should fire him at halftime. Like, change the defense or go get a new job. Go bag groceries or something. There's no excuse if the Eagles play this passive defense against a team that just has no threats in the passing game, and they've got a quarterback that he just doesn't throw the ball downfield whatsoever. Like, this is a game you have to get aggressive, get up in the box, play press coverage, get on these guys early. Now, the question there becomes, the Eagles linebackers are bad. Like, can they even cover Swift and Hawkinson? And that's a whole different issue. But you cannot just sit back and let these guys catch 3-yard passes all day.
Yeah, because that's all Goff's going to do. Goff is going to dump it and dump it and dump it. That's all Goff wants to do. And when you have Swift and Hawkinson, it's hard to blame him. I have some bigger picture thoughts, but staying with like the matchups, this is another Mike K-ism. He like kind of challenged us to name multiple Lions receivers, and I did because I'm a sicko and a draft nerd. So I came up with Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Khalif Raymond, and I believe it was Quintez Cephas, but I don't even know if Cephas is playing. It is rough. You look at the rest of that wide receiver room for Detroit, I don't know any of the other names. So that tells you a lot right there. If I'm able to name those three guys, and then even after looking at a list, I can't even remember the other guys on that list. Just a bad receiver core. So I know that there's a lot of Jared Goff haters out there. I'm kind of part of that group. But you know, it is kind of, you do feel a little bit bad for the guy. And I'm not saying that he would be an excellent quarterback elsewhere, but besides Swift and Hawkinson, he has a brutal O-line, a terrible group of wide receivers, and a head coach who is talking about biting kneecaps. I feel bad for the guy. It seems like, I know Sean McVay, I don't know if he necessarily feels bad because he won't stop talking about it. But I feel bad for the guy, and he almost had his moment. If he would have just got that win last week, like that upset win over the Rams, that would have cemented Jared Goff's like status in the league as a starter, maybe. But there's a chance he might get benched at any time. That's another factor in this game that goes into this. If he has a bad game, could be seeing David Blau of all people out there.
Yeah, we got Covert Truly chiming in on YouTube, says, "What's up, guys? Much, just blowing off some work on a Friday afternoon and talking some Eagles and NFL." Yeah. The line is really bad for the Lions. You know, their center is out, and so that's a big thing here. And we've talked about the pass rush. It should be there against a bad O-line, but the reality, it just doesn't matter if the defensive scheme doesn't change. Like, they're not going to get pressure if we play the same scheme that we've always played, and we've seen it over and over and over. We've seen them not adjust. I just don't have any confidence that they're going to do anything different this week either.
Yeah, hopefully you hope that Fletcher Cox and Roddy McLeod struck some fear into Jonathan Gannon that he might be the guy that's going to be blamed for this, and he might be the scapegoat for this season and for this defense. So you just have to hope that he took some of that to heart, and that maybe Nick Sirianni isn't an idiot. Maybe he has some ideas on how to fix the defense. I know he's an offensive guy, but as he said in his press conferences, which I'm sure we'll mention or talk about at some point, but yeah, yikes. But he did mention in that press conference that, you know, him and Gannon do go over things in the middle of the week, and they've been going over things more this week. Gannon's asking him questions on what gives their offense problems to try to help defend other offenses. That sounds like something that maybe should have happened in the preseason or in training camp, but whatever. It does seem like we are getting closer and closer to, at the end of this year, whatever, 4 or 5 wins. The scapegoats will be Jalen Hurts, and even more so Jonathan Gannon, which will allow your boy Howie and probably Nick Sirianni to stay around for another year with the new quarterback and a new defense. And who knows what the actual issue is. If it's, you know, I'll get into that more, but there's a comment here.
Yeah, it says our defense seems to do good versus bad teams. So does our offense just think of week 1 versus the Falcons. The offense was rolling, and so the defense. I think we see a similar game. What's your take on that? How do you see this playing out? Do you think the Eagles show up this week? I honestly just have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, I hope so. If that comment's right, that'd be fun to watch. Even though I have said that I want them to lose. So I guess I'm like, it's just so hard when you're this early in the season to say that and actually mean it. Because I know once I turn on the game and once I'm watching the game, I'm not going to be sitting there rooting for the Lions. You know what I mean? It's hard to do that until really late in the season. Like last year against Washington, I was absolutely rooting for Washington, like full-throatedly, but I'm not there yet. But I'd be shocked at this point to see a Falcons-like performance from week 1. I think that is a team that was bought in to what that coach was selling, whatever we want to say about Sirianni. I do think that they bought in the offseason and they bought in going into that game. I think it kind of lost some steam once you lose those games to San Fran and Dallas. And I think that the locker room, I'm not going to say he's completely lost the locker room, but I just don't think that they are quite as bought in as they were week 1 or quite as prepared as they were week 1. It just seems like we have the same vanilla start to every game offensively. I know we did start the game against the Raiders with a nice drive to start out the game, but after that, it was just so vanilla. So I'd be shocked to see us really come out and punk the Lions like we punked the Falcons. I do think this is a game that the Eagles are going to win. If I had to guess, I would pick the Eagles to win the game. And that's mainly born out of kind of what I mentioned earlier. I think last week that was like a huge game for Detroit, at least emotionally. I think that you saw that with Jared Goff after the game seeming like broken about that game against the Rams and how it went wrong in the end. You saw that with Dan Campbell crying at the podium in week 7, which to me seems like a bit of a hardo move. But I just think that team was really emotionally bought into that game for the Rams, and I don't know if they will be as bought in. I said the same kind of thing with the Raiders. I thought that they had a letdown spot coming last week. But I do think the Eagles win. I won't be betting this game. This is a stay away from me. But the thing giving me confidence beyond that is that everyone thinks the Lions are going to win. Like everyone in the gambling community, everyone in just like the NFL general community outside of Philadelphia, even a lot of Philadelphia people, I feel like that I've talked to think they're going to lose this game. I don't think they do. And mainly it's because everyone thinks they do. I know that that's kind of a little reverse psychology there, but.
Well, they pulled out all the stops last week against the Rams. They had the onside kick. They had 2 fake punts they converted. So hopefully everything is out of their bag of tricks, or at least the Eagles should be looking for that sort of thing. Ultimately, if that happens, if they catch some of those breaks, I think they can win this game. I think they have played a lot better than their record indicates. I think the Eagles have played about what their record indicates. I don't view the Eagles as a better team here. I view them as kind of 2 pretty similar, sort of equal teams.
I think
but I'll take the Eagles in this
better.
one. I'll take them. I still do trust Jalen Hurts more than I trust Jared Goff. We have better players on defense than the Lions do. I've got to see something. If the Eagles lose this game, they're done.
Oh yeah, they're by far done, and then it will be full on tank mode, full on let's lose every game and let's root for Miami to go 1-16, 1-15. Well, 1-16. I had it right the first time. But
that math's hard now.
I know it's forever gonna mess me up. But yeah, he said it. I'll paraphrase the comment. Convert truly said it. The Lions are 0-7 for a reason. Everyone's forgetting that, and I agree with that. I do think everyone, and I agree that they're better than their record. They probably should have 1 or 2 wins, but they are 0-7 for a reason. And I think that reason's Dan Campbell not being a good coach and Jared Goff not being a good quarterback. So I definitely hope that continues and they go 0-8. But he said, do we think we're bringing up Howard today or Saturday? I think they did, right?
Yeah, I think they brought him up today. So expect to see him some on Sunday. So
I don't think
let's
much.
go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think much. That's all I was saying.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and throw it around the NFL. Talk about some of these other games that are maybe a little more interesting. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals at the New York Jets. Joe Burrow is rolling on the field.
Timeout on the play. Do we have to touch on Sirianni's press conference? I feel like we have to mention it. I feel like we have to.
Go for it.
I don't know, and this goes back to your original point about Howie. I don't know how Howie Roseman sat in a room. Jeffrey Lurie, too. Throw him into this. I'm sure he's in the same rooms. I don't know how Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie sat in a room with this guy, Nick Sirianni, and I know he's a nice guy. He seems like a really nice guy. But I don't know how you sit in a room with this guy compared to the other names that we saw, Eric Bieniemy, Josh McDaniels, Joe Brady, these other names that we saw and we've seen talk. They're not talking about flowers. They're not talking about fertilization. And I know people like it's a joke and like some people are going to overreact to it. I'm not overreacting to it, but he has to know how things are going to be taken. We're not in week 1 anymore with Philadelphia. He's been at this for 2 months now. He has to know like the PR ramifications of what he says. He has to know that people are hanging on those press conferences and what you say. Philadelphia is a different town, than all of these other, cities. Like he came from Indianapolis. That is a huge difference media market wise from going to be the offensive coordinator in a city where they're going to cover the Pacers and the Indiana 500 just as closely as they're going to cover the Colts. And then going to be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, who are, no matter how you slice it, top 2 tough media markets in the country. So I honestly think that this is something that they have to think about going forward when hiring a coach. I don't think Sirianni's long for being the head coach, whether that be a 1-year one and done or whether that be after 2-3 years. I think there's a good chance he's not the coach in 2 years. So I think that the next search they do, they have to make sure that they either get a former player who is coached media-wise, or they have to get someone who comes from a media market who's used to being answered questions and asked questions. And they have to get a former head coach or a former college head coach, whatever that may be. Philadelphia, and we saw it with his initial press conference. I think Nick Sirianni had no, built-in trust with this fan base from the beginning because his first press conference was a joke, and WIP and all those people are going to flaunt that everywhere, and that's going to be your first impression on a lot of these Eagles fans. And he hasn't really changed that impression with his press conferences since then. So I don't know if you have any thoughts, really. I had to get that out.
I mean, my biggest thought was he knows what fertilizer is made out of, right? Primary component there. And that's just perfect. I thought it was a perfect analogy considering that what this season's been. So yeah, I don't care. It's just bad. It's all bad. I know what would get me fired up as a football player is hearing my coach refer to me as a flower that was being watered. That'd really do it for me.
Can you imagine being Fletcher Cox and hearing that? Or Javon Hargrave, and you're looking at each other, and it's like, is this a joke? Like, I just can't. I can't imagine like that. That is you have to leave some things with the team. If that's actually what you said, and he wasn't able to look around the room and realize that wasn't a great message. Like
Fletcher Cox texting Zach Ertz, like, bro, get me out of here.
Yeah. Like I just, oh my God. Like, you don't have to tell them everything, Nick, and then stop talking about your dad and your brother. Just like no one wants to hear about it when we're 2-5. Like maybe if we were 5-2 and you could tell us about the messages that you're delivering the team that come from your family and your high school football father coach, like and I think he's a nice guy. Again, I want to reiterate that. I'm not trying to like kill him. But Jesus Christ, Nick, you have to get a hold of yourself and know how things are going to be taken in the media by this point. It's not week 1 anymore.
Covert on YouTube says Sirianni needs to give Fletcher a rose after that conference. I like it. Let's start a GoFundMe. Send a bouquet of roses to everybody in the locker room.
I know it's stupid, and I know we should be focusing on football, but I really do think that press conference, the first press conference, and then that fertilizer conference now, it really adds to my thinking that this could be one and done. It just feels like Freddie Kitchens. Like it feels a lot like that year with Cleveland where you'd get an interview with Freddie Kitchens and people would be like, is that actually what he said? Is this serious? Like, and you'd see the video and it's just, I don't know. I don't have many more words. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, Sirianni didn't have many words either, apparently. At least not many good ones. So let's go ahead and throw it around the NFL. And again, if you're watching live, drop us some comments here. We'll throw them up on the screen as we move through these games. So we've got the Cincinnati Bengals at the New York Jets. Joe Burrow is rolling on the field. That connection with Jamar Chase is really shining. Meanwhile, Zach Wilson's rolling in a wheelchair. Not really. It just worked well for my intro here. Joe Flacco is not starting for this game. I guess he doesn't. Obviously, he's not going to know the playbook. I think I'd just trust him to figure it out personally, but the Jets are going to be rolling with their previous backup, who was horrific after Wilson went down.
Mike White.
Cincinnati wins this one easily, and I've got money on the Jets under 14.5 in this one.
Interesting. I love the Bengals first quarter and first half here. I have first quarter -2.5, first half -5.5. The Jets are last in EPA. They're 32nd in passing. They're 32nd in offensive DVOA. And in the first half of games, the Jets QBs have 0 touchdowns to 6 picks. The Jets have been outscored 44-0 in the first quarter through 6 games, and they've been outscored 106-20 in the first half. And also, they have yet to intercept the pass. They are the only NFL team in the league that is yet to intercept the pass. So there's a cavalcade of stats that you could point to for the Jets being terrible. The Bengals, I have them at -8.5 too. That line is bumped up to I think 11 now. But I would still hammer them first quarter and first half.
Yeah, Covert says if the Bengals and Jets game's even a game, the only thing that made it a game is the Bengals. The Jets aren't going to do anything in this game to win it. Maybe the Bengals could lose it. I doubt it. I just don't see any way this is even close.
I'll lock it in. If you're in a Survivor League out there, put in the
lock
Bengals.
That one in. All right, let's move on to a game that is a huge game. The Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. This is a huge divisional game. The Titans already won an earlier matchup. If they win this one, they'll be up 3 games and have the tiebreaker. So they would essentially be up 4 games over the Colts. If they lose, they're only up 1 game, and that head-to-head would be a split, so it'll come down to other things. So this is essentially a 3-game swing for the Colts. If they win or lose, they can be down 1 game or essentially down 4. So huge stakes on the line here. The Titans are firing on all cylinders. I mean, they beat the Bills and the Chiefs in back-to-back weeks. I got that order wrong, but regardless, they've knocked off 2 AFC, at least what we thought was a contender in the Chiefs, in back-to-back weeks. The Colts have also started to come together a little bit. But on the whole, this Tennessee running game is just too much, in my opinion. I don't see the Colts pulling this one out, and I definitely don't understand why the Colts are the favorites in this game. So I've got money on the Titans money line in this one.
I like that. The Titans opened at -2 in this game. So the Gamblers have hammered Indianapolis. This is one of the biggest line changes I've seen this early in a week. The Eagles had a crazy line change against the Raiders last week after the Waller news. And you'll see stuff like that on Sunday when money is pouring in Vegas from the sharp gamblers out there. But to see this line move this fast, this early in the week, it's kind of scary because I did like the Titans initially. I'm going to stick with the Titans. I think they're just a better team. I think they're hot. And I know that there is some inclination out there that would tell you there's a letdown spot coming and Indy's playing a lot better football than they were earlier on in the year when these two teams faced. This is definitely, like you laid out, I would say a bigger game for Indy. If you can lose this if you're Tennessee and still feel pretty good about your chances to win the division. If you're Indy and you lose this, it really starts to change the outlook on your season. So honestly, for Eagles purposes, I think we want Indy to win so they can kind of leave Wentz out there and believe in their playoff chances. I'm going to go with Tennessee. I actually got both team total overs earlier on in the week at 23.5. The over was at 48.5 at that point. So I decided to take both team totals instead of just the full over. The overs are now at 50.5. And the team totals are at 26.5 and 24.5. And I would look at that Titans 24.5 team total over for sure. But I have them both at 23.5.
All right. The next game, we've got the Rams at the Texans. The Rams did not play well last week against the Lions, but they won anyways. They don't need to play well this week to beat Houston either. I mean, they could just show up, go through the motions, and they're going to walk past this Houston team. I really don't have anything else to say about this. This is a 15.5-point spread right now. One of the larger spreads you'll see this year.
Yeah, it was 14.5 earlier on this week, and it looked like Tyrod was going to play for a minute. So I was actually looking at Houston, and I was like, maybe I'll take the Texans plus 14.5 with Tyrod. No, Davis Mills is playing. I wouldn't take minus 15.5, but the Rams are going to win this game easily.
Yeah. Rams, no explanation needed. Next, we just need like a bell we can ring for those games that just aren't even worth talking about. But the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns.
Next,
Cleveland is – do what?
I said next. No, I'm joking. It's a good enough game. I know. It's just
Cleveland still without Baker Mayfield. The Steelers' run defense is really good, but when you look at matchups, it's possible that Cleveland, even without Mayfield, they still have the better quarterback in this game. I don't know. Would you rather have Case Keenum rolling out to start for you, or would you rather have Ben Roethlisberger right now?
I have to look at Keenum's numbers from last week. That's tough. That's a tough question right there. Doesn't it seem like I could be reading wrong info or outdated info? It seemed like Baker was kind of trending towards playing. Am I wrong about that? Or
last I heard, he's been real optimistic about playing, and the coach is just like, no, he's not playing yet. So as far as I know, he is not playing this week. Now, if he plays, it probably changes things here, makes it a little more interesting. But
yeah, I think I would still take Ben. I know that's like, ugh, that's gross. I think I would still take Ben, but I have no idea here. I'm going to take Pittsburgh just because it feels like they're really good as an underdog. Like Tomlin as an underdog is like the most profitable underdog coach in football. So, the rule with them is usually fade them as a favorite, back them as a dog. So as long as Baker's out, I'll take Pittsburgh. If Baker plays, I'll take Cleveland. That's my what's it called?
You're hedging yourself a little bit there.
Yeah. I wouldn't bet on this game.
I'm trying to look over here now. Chat's saying that Baker's going to play. I'm trying to look over here and see it now.
Baker and Dak, the news has been so all over the place with both of those guys.
Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. At Dak, speaking of that one, I bet the Cowboys as soon as that opened, and now Dak maybe not play, and they're not even the favorite anymore, and I've got them laying points, so that was unfortunate. But
random question, you're an Oklahoma guy. Kyler, Baker, who did you enjoy more at Oklahoma? I know it's different because Baker was there for longer, but who are you more loyal to in the NFL? I guess who are you a bigger fan of?
I'm a bigger fan of Kyler. Especially as a player. I mean, I think he's a far better player, but in college, Baker was the guy. You loved that arrogance that Baker had, planting the field on Ohio, or planting the flag on Ohio State's field, and stuff like that.
I love that.
That just fit perfectly with that college environment. So that's washed, not a lot, but it's washed out a little bit of him in the NFL. But yeah, I loved him when he was at OU. Not that I dislike him now. I clearly think Kyler's the better player and more fun to watch, though.
Yeah, I was just curious. I didn't know how bad, because I've never heard you kind of rave about Kyler, so I was kind of like, oh, is he not a Kyler guy? So I had to ask.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I liked him both. I think you would probably get consensus amongst OU fans that they liked Baker better when he was here, just for that brashness he had, that arrogance that he had, that kind of resonated with people that are pretty full of their football team, and he was a good figurehead for that. So, okay, rolling on, we have the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. QB play is suffering for both teams. To be honest, though, it's going to be hard to feel good about the Bears in any matchup with the offensive line that they're rolling out there. I said this after you got off last week. I think I talked about the Bears game. Justin Fields threw 3 interceptions. He was strip sacked twice. One of the interceptions, his coach told him in his helmet there were 12 guys off in the field, so he quick snapped it and threw a jump ball, and there weren't. His coach couldn't even count to 12, which should tell you all you need to know. But on his 2 fumbles, he was strip sacked at 1.9 and 2.1 seconds. The offensive line just atrocious, and so San Francisco wins this one.
Yeah, I don't have much here. This is a game I wouldn't bet if my life depended on it. So I'll take San Fran to win. Who the hell knows with these teams? I wish this was Trey Lance versus Justin Fields. I know Trey Lance didn't look fantastic or anything, but just entertainment-wise, it'd be fun to watch those two out there duke it out, even if it ended up being like a 10-7 game. Yeah,
I'm with you 100%. YouTube agrees. Justin Fields doesn't look comfortable on the field with that O-line and the Niners defensive line. Just
how could he?
The Bears are putting on a clinic of how to ruin a quarterback 101 right now.
Absolutely.
Okay, the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta has won 2 straight. Carolina has lost 4 straight. And I think they said they're going back to Sam Darnold after P.J. Walker was 3 of 14 passing. So Darnold is the guy again in Carolina. So, the last time Darnold got a starting job in Carolina, he won his first 3 games. So maybe they're trying to like replicate that.
They're not going to without McCaffrey. So that's the whole thing here. Carolina's an above average team with McCaffrey. They're bad without him. I think that's clearly what we've seen at this point. And the people that got tricked into thinking Darnold was pretty good were tricked that they were exactly that. They were fooled. But the thing I want to talk about here, I have a confession. I said, I believe Joe Ciccoletti, he's a Falcons fan, so he'll want to hear this. It's my buddy. I have said many times in the last couple of years that Matt Ryan will never quarterback a winning record team again. A team with a winning record will not be quarterbacked by Matt Ryan. I'm starting to have some doubts. They're sitting there at 3-3. They might get the 9 wins. There's not they could beat New Orleans a couple times. They could beat Carolina a couple times. Kyle Pitts is really starting to feel himself. So he said, yeah, Kyle Pitts, another big day. Falcons giving me hope again. I'm not telling you they're going to go deep into the playoffs or anything, but the Falcons could go to the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you lose to the Giants, I'm not picking you to win the next week unless you're playing the Jets. So that's enough of it for me. I'm taking Atlanta in this game. It's a 3-point spread right now. I was on the fence about it. I still haven't made my call, but I thought about taking the Falcons and giving that 3 points.
Yeah, it opened at 1.5, and I liked Atlanta, but it got up to that 3 so fast I wasn't able to grab it. And I had Atlanta minus 2.5 last week. They won by 2. Left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I don't have many bets this week. There weren't a lot of lines that I liked. There may be some that move a little later in the week that I like, but
yeah.
So another game that's not worth talking about is the Dolphins at the Bills. The Bills are coming off of a bye. They probably feel a little better about their loss to the Titans after the Chiefs lost to them too. But the Bills beat the Dolphins earlier when Tua was out. Tua's back now. It's probably not going to matter. The spread on this game was huge too. It's at 14 right now. I wouldn't touch that, but I think Buffalo wins this game pretty easily. And for Eagles fans out there, hopefully Miami just continues to flounder. Hopefully they do not make a Deshaun Watson deal because regardless of that whole situation, it would definitely help the team in the short term, and we'd hate to see them pick up some wins.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We're definitely hoping that the Dolphins lose here. This is funny. The Bills tweet. I saw this earlier this week, and I wanted to pull it up. The Bills tweeted out like a stat backing Tua Tagovailoa in like a scouting report tweet. It's like in his last 2 starts, Tua Tagovailoa has completed 75% of his passes with a passer rating of 102.7, which is really good. Like Tua has been getting a lot of credit the last couple weeks. And I am like a huge Tua guy, and I watch him, and he looks like the same guy. It just looks like the players around him are a little better, and he's in some garbage time situations, and he's playing against bad defenses. So to me, I haven't seen any huge progression. I think if anything, people were probably just a little too low on Tua. But I'm still, I love him. I hope he turns it around. I hope he proves me from last week wrong when I said I was on my last straw with him. But I think this is going to be a rough game for him. I think Buffalo is really going to torture him. Buffalo has owned Miami. Sean McDermott has owned Brian Flores, or I should say Brian Dable has owned Brian Flores since they've been there. So I would expect more of the same. And I've heard a lot of smart gambling people love Bills minus 13.5. And we have a comment here from Joe Ciccoletti. Speaking of gambling, he said he does like Allen over 280 yards, Sanders over 55 yards. Waddle over 58 yards, Josh Allen and Jalen Waddle. Is that Sanders? Emmanuel. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Sanders. He's on Buffalo. And
he said, don't quote me. So I thought I'd make sure I threw it on the screen and we quoted him. So
it's
preserved for all posterity.
I like that.
I am interested in the Bills over 31 in this game. They've scored 31 or more their last 3 or 4 games. I can't remember exactly, but the Dolphins, they're not a team that's playing well right now. I think you could see the Bills put up a lot of points in this one.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It could be ugly.
Okay, the next one we have the New England Patriots at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are coming off of a bye week following a loss. They've had an extra week to sit there and let that loss get them real pissed off. The Patriots have the defense that Bill Belichick's the defensive mastermind. Maybe he can confuse Justin Herbert again. Herbert had a bad outing last time. But Mac Jones, you saw him start to push the ball a little bit more downfield last week. I'm not sure if it's enough, especially against this Chargers defense. I think they could give him fits. I honestly think you could see a kind of a low-scoring game in this one with potentially a lot of turnovers.
I agree with you there. I think it could be a low-scoring game, and that's why I hammered Patriots +6 earlier on this week. It's down to 4, even 3.5 some places that you look. So I got Patriots +6. I love that line right there. I think they win outright. I think it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring game, and we've seen it with Tampa. We saw it with Dallas. New England has been able to muck up these games and really have these teams play down to them and make mistakes in critical moments. And we've seen the Chargers do that before. We've seen the Chargers play down to teams and let teams hang around. That Dallas game, they had plenty of chances to put that game away. I know that's probably a long time ago now, but I remember they played Dallas, ended up losing 20-17, and it was like they were up 14-0, I think, and it felt like, oh wow, they could really start scoring, and Dallas was able to muck it up. Even Washington, who that defense has not looked great since then, but in week 1, the Chargers beat them 20-16, let them hang around the whole game. I think the Chargers will let the Patriots hang around. Will they win the game? I don't know. I think it'll absolutely be decided by like a field goal, though. I think it's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, the double under on the team totals is interesting to me in this one, too. I think it was under 27 for the
Chargers.
Yeah, and under 21 or 21.5 for the Patriots. So that interested me, but I haven't decided on that yet either.
Another nugget would be that you could take this both ways. The Patriots beat the Chargers 45-0 last year when Justin Herbert, it was Herbert's only bad loss last year. Will that be something where that motivates the Chargers and that motivates Justin Herbert to come out and kind of avenge that? Or is that maybe Belichick seeing something that is exploitable in Herbert? Who knows? So that's going to be interesting to watch for and how the defense kind of handles that Chargers offense.
Yeah. So moving on, we have the Jaguars traveling to Seattle. The battle we had been waiting for since the draft, Trevor Lawrence versus Geno Smith. What do you see in this one?
I like Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville wins this game. I think Geno is destined to lose every game he plays as a Seahawk by like 3. I think he's just destined to lose every game like 17-14 that he starts, or like 20-17. And I think that's what we see here. I do think that Jacksonville took some strides in that Miami game in London 2 weeks ago. And I think that that's something during a bye week that you can build on. Maybe I'm putting a little bit too much faith in Urban Meyer and the coaching staff that Urban Meyer hired. I don't know what he was doing over the bye week. Hopefully he wasn't in Columbus at any bars. But I think that Jacksonville wins this game and outright, and I think they cover 3.5.
All right. The Washington football team at the Denver
You didn't
Broncos.
give a pick there.
Oh, I'll take the Jags in this one too. Traveling cross country to go play at Seattle is a tough place to play, but I just don't think you can have any confidence in Geno Smith at this point or in that Seattle defense. And so I think the Jaguars, they pick up a win here.
Agreed.
So Washington football team at the Denver Broncos. Washington played better on defense against the Packers last week. And that coincides with Denver struggling on offense lately. This could be a tough day for Teddy Bridgewater. He doesn't push the ball downfield a whole lot anyways, which is how you can exploit this Washington defense. Their pass rush is getting a little bit better by virtue of the coverage getting a little bit better. But I actually like Washington in this game. What about you?
Same here, and you took the words right out of my mouth. Defense has been better. Hopefully Heineke's able to make enough plays happen. He has not played great as of late, but hopefully with the defense playing better, he's able to kind of game manage and make plays happen when he needs to. He actually had 95 yards rushing last week, and not in a game that wasn't great for Heineke, but hopefully he does more of that. I think that if he runs around a lot and kind of minimizes the picks aspect, he will obviously be someone who could lead them to wins. They're 2-5 against the spread, Washington. Weird stat. But I like Washington to win and cover.
All right. Moving on, we got 3 games left here. The next one is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints. The Saints beat the Bucs twice last season before ultimately losing to them in the playoffs. And so potential revenge game for Jameis, right? He's drafted by Tampa, and now he's in New Orleans.
I didn't even think of that. That's funny.
Yeah, so we get the potential revenge. all jokes about Jameis aside, he's actually been playing well. His average depth of target is on par for his career, but his interceptions are way down. And so he's been taking care of the football, but his wide receiver core is just so bad. But they get a matchup against a Bucs defense that's also just so bad against the pass. And so I don't know. What do you think about this one?
I believe Michael Thomas will be back for this game. I could be wrong there.
Oh, really?
I saw that he was projected for points in fantasy. So I don't know necessarily what the update is for Michael Thomas. Before I give my pick, Joe Chick has a pick here in the comments. He said he likes the Bucs -4.5 and over 49.5. Maybe even that's funny. Maybe even a big game from Mike Evans. Wink, wink. I just traded him, Mike Evans, in a fantasy league for Darrell Henderson. So I hope Mike Evans has a bad game this week. And I actually saw something that he's played Marshawn Lattimore like 16 times, and Marshawn Lattimore has absolutely dominated Mike Evans. So maybe this is a game that Tom Brady has to look elsewhere. At first glance, you look at this line, Tampa and New Orleans, you're like, Tampa only is favored by 4.5. They should be favored by a touchdown. AB's out. When you look at that Mike Evans stuff against Marshawn Lattimore, he's really struggled against New Orleans. This is a game where you're really going to have to run the ball well and get the ball to Chris Godwin. I think it's going to be a really close game. I'm going to take the Bucs to win, but I am not taking the spread. I'm not taking a bet on this game. And I think New Orleans could keep it close. And people forget in that playoff game that they lost last year, New Orleans wins that game if Jared Cook doesn't fumble that ball.
I'm still trying to figure out if Michael Thomas is going to play or not. I can't seem to find anything that says he's going to be back. No injury updates. As of yesterday, Sean Payton was asked about the timetable. He is eligible to return to practice. But yeah, so that seems like a big who knows at this point. But overall, I'll take the Bucs. I think the Saints, they throw the ball to their running backs. They throw the ball to Kamara a lot when they play the Bucs. Last year, I think it was almost double-digit reception or targets for him per game. I just think Tampa is going to be able to shut that down. And obviously, it's going to be really hard to run the ball on them. And so I like Tampa in this game. I don't like them enough to take them -4.5, but I think they come out on top.
Maybe throw their money line in a parlay. But yeah, it's actually looking like Michael Thomas will not be back this week. I don't know where I saw that, but it looked like for a brief time this week that he could be.
So starting on the PUP list means he has to be out the first 7 weeks. So he would be eligible to come back this week. But it doesn't look like he is yet.
Yeah.
So the next one, the Sunday night game, Dallas at Minnesota. I jumped on this game early when it came out, and it only had like a 1.5 point spread. And now Dak might not even play. And so Dallas is actually the underdog in this game. I really regret that bet. I would still probably bet on them like +3, I think is what it is, and just hoping that Dak's going to play. But even if he does play that calf, it could be an issue. Mike Zimmer defenses love to confuse offensive lines. You get those double A gap mugging looks. If Dak's mobility is gone with that calf, that could be problematic. If he's able to slide around in the pocket, though, I just don't know how you stop their passing attack. It's so good. Like, are you going to take away Amari Cooper? Are you going to take away CeeDee Lamb? They've just got so many options, and they're running the ball so well. Offensively, they should be able to move the ball. But Dallas is going to give up yards. They give up yards, but they get turnovers. That's been their MO this year. And we know that largely turnovers is a little bit of luck in there. And so you could expect to see some regression to the mean there, especially with the fact that for all Kirk Cousins' faults, he generally takes care of the football. I kind of see this being, if Dak plays, I see this being a pretty high-scoring game.
You said Kirk Cousins takes care of the football. That's normal Kirk Cousins. We're talking about primetime Kirk Cousins here. So I don't know. I don't know if Kirk Cousins is going to take care of the ball. Once that nighttime pitch dark sky comes out, Kirk Cousins starts seeing ghosts and throwing picks. It'll be Halloween too. Oh man. It's hard to say anything about this game without knowing what's up with Dak. I actually made my biggest bet of the year on the football season on Monday on that Dallas -1 spread. I have since cashed out of, I think I lost a couple bucks, but oh well. I cashed out of that to kind of try to reevaluate. And I would suggest to everyone that wants to bet Dallas, and I feel like there's so many people like us that bet it early that I've heard that I've talked to that are like, man, what do I do? Do I leave the bet in? Do I cash out? Or whatever it is. So my suggestion would be cash out because they're the underdog now. I would say cash out for what you can. And then put tweet notifications for Schefter, Jane Slater, for Rappaport, for every NFL person you can that might have the first scoop on Dak. Get those tweets, see it, and then as soon as you get that tweet notification, rush to whatever book you use and try to beat them on getting the line down. I've had a pretty good success rate with injuries doing stuff like that. And realistically, the line won't move from Dallas +3 to Dallas -3 right away. It'll probably climb. It won't just skyrocket. So my suggestion would be to really monitor that situation if you want to bet on Dallas. That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, and I know Dak said he wants to play, but it's kind of out of his hands. So, well, I imagine he's going to play, but
me too.
We'll see. So, and then on to Monday night, an absolute dumpster fire of a game on Monday night. We've got the New York Giants at the Kansas City Chiefs. This has got to be a get-right game for the Chiefs.
I sure hope so.
Chiefs, if the Chiefs lose this game, their season is done. This is a must-win for the Chiefs in prime time on Monday night. They get that extra day to get ready here. Andy Reid is traditionally great with extra time to prepare. You got to hope that Patrick Mahomes is going to get back on track here and the defense just shows up and allows Daniel Jones to turn the ball over to them.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a 40-10 game. I think Kansas City is going to kill him. I'm not betting on it because I'm too emotionally invested in this game. I love Mahomes. I'm getting to like threat level red at like some of the Mahomes takes I'm seeing on social media that are making me want to rip my hair out. Like this guy doesn't have three. It's not like whatever. I don't want to get too far into it. Maybe I'll leave that for final thoughts. But Mahomes, I think will roll here. And I also am just as emotionally invested in the Giants being a joke and in Daniel Jones being bad and in Joe Judge being an idiot as I am in the Eagles being good or Patrick Mahomes being good. So I very much hope Kansas City lays the smackdown on the Giants.
Yeah, that's what I expect to see in a game that I likely will not be staying up to watch the end of.
That's fair.
All right. Well, Mark, before we get out of here, do you have any final thoughts for us?
Yeah, I'll continue my thoughts right there. Patrick Mahomes had the most successful 3-year start to an NFL career in NFL history. He went to the AFC Championship game as the MVP and lost to the Patriots in a game that they win if D4 doesn't jump off sides. So he probably should have been in the Super Bowl his first year. His second year, he goes and wins the Super Bowl. In his second year as a quarterback, he wins the Super Bowl. In his third year, he goes and loses the Super Bowl. He's been in top 3 in the MVP all 3 years. He has an MVP. He has a Super Bowl MVP. This is not like a guy who had one good year and then came out in his second year. This isn't a sophomore slump. This isn't RG3 getting figured out. The whole Mahomes is figured out. He's having it's week 8 and he's still in like the top 5 of every meaningful statistic out there passing wise, even like passer rating and QBR and stuff like that. So the rumors of Patrick Mahomes' demise are greatly exaggerated. That's all I think. And I don't know, maybe Kansas City won't be the same team they've been the last couple of years. And maybe that's a factor of his contract. Who knows? I don't think this is the last we've heard from Kansas City this year or in the next couple of years. Like I think they'll be a Super Bowl contender sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Patrick Mahomes is fine. He's going through his stretch right now. And that happens from time to time. Every quarterback goes through it. The great ones pull out of it, and I certainly expect him to pull out of it. I gave my final thought at the beginning, so I guess it was a first thought, not a final thought. I just had to get off of my chest before we could go into all of this. So I'll leave it right there. I'm good to go. So thank you guys for joining us for episode number 20 of Chalk Talk. Those of you that joined us live, thanks for dropping your comments. We enjoy interacting with you guys. If you enjoyed what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, please be sure to smash that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. Drop us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow Mark. Our handles are right here at @halfandhalf_TPL, at Mark Henry Jr. _.
And check out my college football podcast tomorrow morning with my bets. The Saturday pods have been doing really well in the morning, so check that out tomorrow.
Yeah, check it out. Follow Mark on Twitter. He's got a lot of great content for you guys. So for me, from Mark, from the Painted Lines, we'll see you guys next time.